Hello, welcome everyone. Hiya. Right, welcome to the new administration. Before we kind of get the meeting underway, I just want to say a few words, because obviously a lot's happened over the past week or so. So I'd like to welcome everyone to the first cabinet of this new alliance of councillors who've basically come together to deliver meaningful change across the communities in Worcestershire. So I just want to set out the kind of key focuses of this new administration. So the key one is the finances. We want to deliver the savings through the transformation plan that we've got before us today, keeping any further council tax increases below 5%. Also, we want to reduce the amount that we borrow from the government via the emergency financial support. That's key as well. And also, the big overarching picture is obviously we are preparing for a local government reorganisation. So we want to be ready to go, however that reorganisation will be, whether it's one or two. So, and I think we can all agree we do not underestimate the scale and difficulty of the task ahead. And despite interference from Conservative HQ, which I won't go into anymore, have basically meddled in our local democracy, there forced some changes in my cabinet. But I'm very confident in the team that we have with us today over the next year or two. Will have the skills, knowledge and experience to carry this out. So I thought I just want to introduce my cabinet. I'm sure during the meeting they will tell us a bit more about themselves when they're speaking, but obviously, you know, me as leader, Matthew Jenkins, but I also have responsibility for local government reorganisation, transformation, and obviously lobbying of government. To my right is Councillor Adam Kent, the Deputy Leader, and he is Cabinet Member responsible for finance, corporate services and business. So going around the Cabinet, no particular order, but we have Councillor Mel Orcott, who's responsible for adult social care. Natalie McVeigh is Cabinet Member for Children and Families. We have Josh Robinson, Cabinet Member for Environment and Communities. We have Councillor Dan Boatwright-Green, Cabinet Member for Education, Send and Skills. Alan Bales, who sends his apologies, isn't here today, but he will be Cabinet Member for Health and Wellbeing. And last but certainly not least, we have Tom Wells, Cabinet Member responsible for Highways and Transport. That's all I want to say at this point. I'm sure there'll be lots going on in the meeting today. So if we go back to the agenda and start with the first item, which is apologies and declarations of interest, please.
Just the one apology today from Councillor Bales. Thank you.
Thank you, Hazel. And do we have any public participation? Oh, declaration.
Just on a declaration of interest on agenda item 6. Obviously, as a Bromsgrove District Councillor, we are proposing to give money to Bromsgrove District, but that's it. Thanks.
Same in my capacity as a Malvern Hills District Councillor. Thanks.
The same in my capacity as a Worcester City Councillor. Thank you.
And finally, same for Wychavon District Council. Oh, there's another one. Oh, so close.
Not quite finally, Chairman. Me too.
Not anymore, Ad. Thank you for that. So, yeah, any public participation, please?
No public participation has been registered for today. Thank you.
Okay, third item on the agenda is confirmation of the minutes. Everyone agree they're true record and are happy to for me to sign them. Obviously, we weren't the cabinet at the time, but yeah.
Agreed.
Exactly. Exactly. Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, into the meat of the bone. Right, at the core of the meeting. So, item number 4, budget setting process for 27-28. And I believe, Councillor Kent, this is over to you.
Thank you very much, Leader. Well, I certainly didn't think I'd be sitting here last week. Obviously, it's a very sort of interesting journey, and I suppose in terms of what I've got to say, I think it's very clear to me that we've got to take the national out of our local politics. I think we've come together as an alliance, and that's the word I'm going to use, to solve some problems that we're all aware of. I'm not really interested in history. What went on before was before. It's now what we do in the future that's really important. And I think the interference that you can see across the UK in local politics from national organisations is unacceptable. We were elected by our residents in our division to make a clear difference for them. I represent Withall and I represent Worcestershire, and moving forward, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Nobody in national government is going to tell me what to do for my residents in Withall. It's absolutely unacceptable, and I'd like to say just meeting the cabinet and meeting people that have given me a huge amount of love, yeah, a huge amount of love. People that previously I would have been at loggerheads with, that now are hugging me, phoning me up, asking how I am. I'm going through a horrendous situation at the moment that everybody is aware with, but I'd just like to thank everybody who's given me the support. The local support for what we've done is unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. We're doing the right thing for the people of Worcestershire. Some of us will pay a very, very heavy price for it. And you know, that's the burden that we've got to pay. That's what we've got to take. But moving forward, we've got an incredibly experienced team here. This is not people coming into politics that haven't done this before. Everybody in this cabinet has got a reason for being in that role. I'm really disappointed that some very, very experienced and talented people aren't with us. And that is an issue for somebody else at another time to discuss and debate. And it was very interesting. I saw Andy Street tweeted something last night about Birmingham. And I've had conversations with the people in Birmingham, and we are not alone with the situation that we face, and somebody has to sort it out. But that's the end of that. And now I'm happy to move on to the paper in front of me, which is the budget setting process. Now, I'm proposing items 1, A, proposing the budget setting framework for 27-28, and B, noting the dates of the 26-27 budget monitoring reports to be considered by Cabinet and scrutiny panels. Now, in terms of that report, I'm going to need a seconder in a minute, but you can probably hold fire for a second. We're not happy with this report. It's in front of us now. We don't think it's ambitious enough. In terms of the timescale, now we've got a proper financial settlement. I don't want a situation that we've seen before whereby this is run right to the last minute. We're having emergency meetings. People are coming in at Christmas to try and sort out some precarious thing because the government finally decides to tell us what money we've got right at the last minute. So we've actually got an opportunity now to compress this thing, and I'm going to be working with the scrutiny chair, David Taylor, and all of the other cabinet colleagues to try and work out with the officers what we can do to actually compress the programme so we can actually get an understanding of where we are far quicker. Obviously, there's going to be an issue with the financial situation in terms of the in-year run rate and everything, but I'll be working with Phil Rook and all of his team to ensure that we can get accurate figures and we know exactly where we are. We can't have this last minute, what are we going to do situation ever again. So as Councillor Jenkins, the leader, has put forward, the goal of this administration is a council tax rise below 5%. That is our goal. That is what we will be judged on. And we need the support of all the councillors, all the cabinet, and all the officers to deliver it. That is where we are. Do not, I'm going to be on that door of that finances like the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Yeah? You come to me with a good solution that's going to provide an instant return, then we're really interested. But we have to set this council up so that whatever happens with that LGR decision, everybody's aware of what my view are, but we're all of the view that if it's not 1 and it's 2, we've got to prepare this council so it's in a position that the people that pick it up aren't picking up a basket case. Yeah? I want somebody to be able to turn around and in the short time that this council has got left, that it is regarded with pride, that people know that the people around this table have made an absolute effort to do their very best with difficult circumstances. And we need everybody at the table. No more disputes, no more disagreements, no more leadership changes, no more chaos. This is going to be a group of people that are coming together for Worcestershire. I don't care whether you're Reform, Conservative, Liberal, Independent, Green, Green Alliance, or whatever it is. This is people of Worcestershire saying enough. Enough of the chaos, enough of the high taxes, it's time to deliver. And my door is open for anybody to come through it. Yeah? Anybody. I don't care what party you are, I'm not interested. Just come and talk to me. If you've got an idea or you've got a way that we can help, then brilliant. So I'm going to move this paper. We are going to come in with an amendment at a future Cabinet meeting. We'll sit down with Paul and Phil, myself and Matt, and we will work out a strategy and a programme, and then we'll come back to you. So I'd like to move items 1 and A.
Thank you, Adam, and I'm happy to second this. Just add a few brief words, but I think basically we know we need to make significant savings in the circa of 35 to 40 million this coming year. So, and as Adam said, the key for us is to do this as fast as possible to ensure that the savings are made as soon as possible. And we cannot afford the transformation savings to be delayed. And I think reiterate the point that we do welcome input from everyone. We've come together as a group to try and sort this out, but we know that there's good ideas across the piece from various people in all groups. So we welcome all that because we want to get it in. So we have a budget that works, is below that 5%, and everyone can support it. That would be the ideal. So thank you. Happy to second. Mel?
Chair, thank you. And a formal congratulations on the role of leader of this council. And Cabinet, good morning. For those of you who don't know me, I have been a councillor for 8 years. I'm a chartered accountant, a co-leader at Worcester City Council, former Mayor of Worcester, and last year I was chair of the Adult Care and Wellbeing Overview and Scrutiny Panel, which dovetails into my newly appointed role as Cabinet Member responsible for adult social care. With regard to this budget setting process, I support this recommendation, but the process must be accelerated wherever possible. I'm acutely aware of the growing pressures facing our services in adult social care. Demand continues to rise, complexity of care increases, and the many providers we use continue to face significant workforce and cost challenges. These pressures are not unique to Worcestershire, but they do require us to plan earlier, act quicker, and provide increased certainty across the system. The proposed budget setting process covers an appropriate level of consultation, scrutiny and engagement, yet there is a strong case for accelerating elements of the timetable which will provide residents, providers and partners with clarity at the earliest opportunity. An earlier, more streamlined process will allow us to implement transformation programmes sooner, support better financial planning across adult social care and give providers and staff more confidence about future commissioning intentions and service delivery even. Most importantly, this will help ensure that vulnerable adults who rely on our support continue to receive safe, sustainable and high quality care. I therefore recommend that Cabinet approves the proposed 27-28 budget setting process while asking officers to explore every opportunity to expedite the timetable in a practical and proportionate way. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Alcott. Your great experience will be very useful, and obviously you're chairing of the adult panel. I know that you've done a great job there. Councillor Boatwright-Green.
Thank you, Chair, and congratulations on being leader of Worcestershire County Council. I would firstly like to thank Kemi Badenoch for the promotion, and also at the same time saving us 2 cabinet posts, so we've already made a saving. The challenges at this council cannot be underestimated, but as a qualified teacher with 17 years of experience in the state education sector, mostly as a teacher and examiner, and someone who's managed shoestring budgets my entire career, I'm sure we have a team who can get the council back on track. I also have considerable experience of Ofsted, and we need to get ourselves in a permanently prepared position to ensure the best possible outcomes for our young people, no matter their background or access needs. I know we do not agree on everything, and I do wonder what my 18-month ago self would have thought about this. And nationally, we will have robust debate, but the direction of our country is not relevant to this county right now. Locally, regardless of personal histories or previous disagreements, it is the people of Worcestershire who are our only focus. I think I can safely say I've been somewhat vocal in my frustration over the budget process in previous years, but this is in part being because the government has only given us one-year settlements that have ruined most people's Christmases and meant forward planning has become almost impossible. Now we have a multi-year settlement, there is an opportunity to get ahead and plan properly for the future. So I welcome an accelerated programme of budget setting and look forward to working with everyone to achieve this. Our meetings have very often been on the same day as Pershore Town Council, as it is today. Writing a report has become almost impossible. I'm hoping I can start going to parish and town council meetings without a report in hand that starts with the sentence, "at the time of writing." So I welcome Councillor Kent's comments on this report, and I look forward to working to that aim. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And I think that's key, is that focus on local issues. We've got a lot going on. We keep away from national politics. It's our residents that are key to our administration. Thank you. Councillor Wells, I think you want to make a point.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Particularly welcome to those members who are not members of the Cabinet, but are given the morning today to come and listen and hopefully participate. Chairman, you asked us in the pre-meet to say a few words about who we are. I'm not sure I need to do that. But just one way or another, most people know who I am. But just for reference, I've been a county councillor on Worcestershire County Council since its formation in 1997. And I have been through local government reorganisation before, where Hereford and Worcester were the council in 96, and Worcestershire and Herefordshire became separate entities in 97. So I'm kind of aware of what's ahead of us. We have made 2 cabinet posts vacant. That is an annual saving of 50k, and if that continues, that's 100k before we complete. Now, that's a small contribution to the £30 million deficit we're trying to cover, but it is at least a start. Looking at the budget going forward, I totally agree that the timescale here is more expansive than it needs to be. In some years, local authorities tend to go to sleep in August. People tend to take their holidays, and if you look at the calendar of meetings, it seems to be fairly quiet. I don't think that can happen this year. I think we steam on through the summer recess as though it hadn't occurred. Turning to my portfolio, I think I'm the 4th cabinet member with responsibility for highways and transport this year. And I want to say something really positive about Carl Perks. I don't know if he's here today, but he might be listening online. He really committed himself to this position, and he worked tirelessly to engage with communities, support local district and county councillors. So he was amazing, but you could tell that the work strain was really quite heavy, and I'm not sure this particular role will be sustainable if we expect cabinet members to go to Redditch and Bromsgrove and Kidderminster to look at potholes and hedges that need cutting back and things. So I'm going to encourage members to use the the council portal, to report these instances in the first. And then, if they're not getting any joy, to go to their highway liaison officers, who in my experience are brilliant. And I'm only going to come reluctantly, I have to say, out to look at the problem with Evesham's High Street or whatever it might be, and so on. I'm just not going to do that. So I'm setting that out really clearly from the start. I'm going to be more strategic and less operational. That's the only way I can conduct myself in this post. To give people a flavour of what we're talking about, I have 24 emails overnight saying, congratulations, now will you come and please and sort this out? All over the county, within hours of being appointed. So God knows what it's going to look like at the end of the day. So, Chairman, I'm making the point that this particular role is very much outward facing, and I will come back to Cabinet with some savings sooner rather than later.
Thank you for that, Tom. I mean, I think that last point about using the members' portal, using these IT tools that we have, I mean, that we'll be coming onto it later, but use of AI and all that technology, we can be far more efficient than we currently are. And that is actually key, I think, of a lot of what we're looking to do. So, and obviously, as you said at the start, about tightening this kind of whole budget setting process, we need to speed this whole thing up. But thank you. I think we have Councillor McVeigh.
Thank you, Chair, and can I join others in congratulating you on your appointment as leader. Good morning, Cabinet, and good morning to the people that are behind me. I know they're there, but I can't see you. I don't like having my back to you, but thank you for coming along. Just to reiterate, we all know the level of the fiscal challenges we're facing, and we want to get on with the job in hand, united, going forward together. It's true that we're a new Cabinet, but we are not new councillors. I am former Deputy Leader and Portfolio Holder for Housing and Health at Malvern Hills District Council. What is clear to me is that there's also a wealth of experience on the front bench from our roles in our vocational lives. You know, we're councillors, we represent our residents, but we've got lives and experiences outside of politics as well. And for me, that's as a youth and communities worker and a senior officer in libraries. Also recently here, politically, as chair of the Children's Overview and Scrutiny Panel, and I currently sit also on the Cross-Party Local Government Association Children and Young People and Families Committee, which actually has the ear of government. So, you know, I'm well positioned here to represent us and represent our residents at that government level. I'm also currently mentoring other councillors right across the country who find themselves in a position of no overall control, which is happening here, obviously. So we're not alone in being in this situation, but our financial position complicates things for us, certainly. It's clear to me that to have the best chance of sorting things out for our residents, and in my particular role to give children their best start in life and give them opportunities to thrive, it's necessary to compress the programme and the timescales here, and I'm really pleased that that's what we're going to be doing. As others have said, we're committed to involving all councillors, and I sincerely hope that members of other parties will join us to achieve stability, put us on a good footing going forward, and to keep the vampires from our door. Thank you.
Well, I didn't think about vampires now, but yeah, thank you for that. And I think, yeah, your huge experience in the area of your cabinet role is going to be really essential. So thank you for that. Councillor Josh Robinson.
Thank you, and congratulations on your new role. Coming in last, everyone has said a lot of positive things, so I won't talk for too long, but as previous chair of Environment Scrutiny Committee, I'm really proud to be taking up this role on environment and in communities. I see the portfolio that I have, and I'm really looking forward to working with officers to be able to you know, find better ways of doing things, and you know, we have to find savings, but let's try and improve things as well at the same time. I just on the budget setting budget setting item. You know, Councillor Wells will know my frustration at the situation of last year, and I'll apologise to him now for probably the things that I said throughout that last term, because we're all friends now, aren't we? So, but yeah, if we can get this done in a shorter time scale to be able to give people more opportunity to scrutinise, more opportunity to bring things forward, I think that's for the betterment of people of Worcestershire. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, I mean, improving things as well. I mean, obviously we are focusing hugely on the financial pressures we have, but we want to make sure that we do actually improve things as well. We're not just cutting. We are going to actually make things better as well. That's got to be our focus as well. We can't just be purely negative. So that's really important. And yeah, we do want to get scrutiny involved, because scrutiny, if done well, can actually improve what we put forward. You know, we're not going to know everything. We want them involved. So thank you for that point. And I think that's everything. So we will move on to... Oh yes, of course. Forget that bit. That used to be me. So anyone else outside the cabinet who would like to speak? Put your hand up now. If not, we are happy to move on to the next item. Okay.
Do we
need to vote on that? Yep. Okay. All those in favour? I think that's unanimous. Okay. Thank you. Good point, whatever that was. Right. Next item, transformation update, which is over to you, Councillor Kent.
Yes, it's quite interesting. We had a pre-cabinet meeting with the SLT team that was really, really productive and different in terms of, I think, probably the way we're moving forward. And I mean, having sat in those meetings previously, because obviously I was on the cabinet for a substantial period of time in the last administration before this the last administration, and had cabinet roles for both corporate and communities and economy and skills in that particular role. And obviously, as Councillor May will remember, I was also Deputy Leader at Bromsgrove District Council and took the planning portfolio at that particular point. So I think it's really good to hear the experience of the cabinet that we've got moving forward, that we're going to be able to hit the ground running and deliver the type of savings that we need, but also to ensure that we keep those core services running well. You know, we're looking for efficiencies. We're not looking really for cuts, but we've got to get where we've got to do. we've got to get where we're going to, and that means we've got to move forward with the transformation programme. Now, this is a 550-page report. And I suppose some of the transformation is, imagine how much officer time that has taken to produce. 550 pages. There's, what, 8 of us on the Cabinet? We've got to read those 550 pages. I'm sure every councillor went to bed last night reading it front to back to analyse it so that they were fully prepared when they came into the meeting, that they knew every page and every reference that was attributed to their particular interest. And I think this is where we've got to use technology moving forward. Both Matt and myself are involved in IT. Yep. We are going to accelerate the introduction of AI. We're going to look at it very carefully with the officers. We're going to break down the barriers there are in the public sector to change and new tools. And we're going to do everything we possibly can to make this council more efficient, operate quicker, and provide better services at lower cost. And that's one of the programmes we've done. We've already made an instant change, and all of the Cabinet are going to be trained up and provided with the relevant AI tools. So if they've got a 550-page report, they can actually analyse it properly and extract the information that they need in the particular core. Now, in the earlier pre-meet, because we meet before coming into this meeting, and we have a professional approach to the image that we want to present to Worcestershire and what we want to say. And we want to present a very competent image that we're fully briefed and we understand those particular segments. And I was sitting here thinking, as the Cabinet were introducing with their experience, what can we do to move forward to make a difference? And I had a conversation with one of the Cabinet members, and I said, with these tools, it would be possible that you could find a best-of-breed council that was particularly good at a particular service, take their last 5, 6, 7, 8 Cabinet reports, whatever had been there, put ours in and ask it to compare the two and come forward with suggestions as to the way that we could learn from the good things that they do. And that will be done in 10 minutes, with a proper AI tool and the proper training. Now imagine how long it would take you to read 5 to 550-page reports or 10 550-page reports and be able to collate that data to try and understand what the best way forward is. You will never do it. It's impossible. We do have to compress the size of these reports. It's ridiculous that an officer has to produce something of that depth. But because it's got that depth, it allows me to extract the key points, the key salient points and everything else. But we've got to look at improvements in that way. There is no point in having a senior officer spending 2 weeks or a week trying to produce a report for a Cabinet meeting that probably half the councillors won't read, because it's too big. It needs to be summarised down and broken down, and then pointers put in terms of a corporate dashboard. Now, when I first came into this council in 2017, I sat in a meeting, and I'm not sure whether you were the chief executive at the time. I don't think you were, actually. When did you actually start, Paul? 18. So it's 2017. And I sat in a meeting there, and I've come in from an IT world, and I was presented with a spreadsheet that was doing the accounts for this council. Excel. The whole of the council accounts was on Excel. And I looked at that and I went, you are kidding me. I've got better tools in my office and I've only got 4 employees. What is going on with the technology? And it's quite clear that the public sector finds a great difficulty in doing change in IT because they get overexcited with all of the bells and whistles that they want and forget about the core that they actually need. And I cannot understand how a council, and I don't know how many district and county councils there are across the country. I should know, really, I suppose. I'm sure somebody in the crowd will be able to tell me. But you imagine a situation. How daft is it? The Treasury gives us a bit of money and they want to know what we're doing. So they send away several hundred councils to go and procure their own systems from different suppliers with different terms of reference when they're all doing exactly the same thing. Now, we've got local government reorganisation coming forward, and I want to set the government a task. If you're going to burden us with these changes, and you're going to make us do it, why don't you give us some systems that will actually allow us to do what we want to do, and then feed into the Treasury so the Chancellor of the Exchequer can actually press a button and see what's happening on that day all round the country. I've sat on scrutiny panels and been a strong supporter of scrutiny and got so frustrated that I'm scrutinising something that went wrong 4 months ago. It has to stop. We're going to make the investment in AI and technology that will stop this. But I don't want to do it here. And Birmingham does it, well, we've all heard about the situation they've had with their IT systems and the cost and the huge impact it's had on the Birmingham residents. And as somebody who's got an office in the centre of Birmingham, actually B1, I'm all too familiar with the problems that that's caused. How on earth is the government allowing this to happen? Why don't they fix it? They seem to want to interfere in the way that we run it, so why don't they interfere in a way that's actually going to give us something back? You know? We're at a point where we need them to step up. I want them to tell us what systems they're going to use. Thank you, Phil. That was it. I've got the numbers now. Look at that. 317 is it? 317 councils procuring payroll systems, finance systems, children's systems and adult systems. And they're all different. And the data doesn't feed into the same thing. Come on, government. Come on, Starmer. Stop messing about. You know, get on with it and fix this problem. Because if you can't fix it, there's plenty of us here that are capable of doing it. So step aside, you know. So anyway, we've got a transformation programme coming. I've got a shed load of here. I don't know how many actual sections I've got to recommend and whatever, but I just want to take you through some stark numbers first and set out the position. And this was done in Claude. So before somebody accuses me of AI, I've used it and I celebrate using it. Yeah, that's the difference. Right. EFS used to close 26-27 gap. 59.933 million. I produced this report the other day and I sat in a pre-cabinet meeting and Paul started telling us and he reeled off the first three things straight away. So well done to Paul, but he hadn't seen my report. So I was on the level that he was instantaneously, having only picked up the portfolio hours before. So what's the significance of that 59.933 million? It's entirely one-off. It cannot be repeated sustainably. We're on a credit card. That's it, credit card. Yeah? Now you imagine you're sat at home and you're looking at your budget. You've got a mortgage, you've got your rent, you've got your rates, you've got your electricity. Some are shaking they haven't got a mortgage. I'm thinking, right, lucky you. But can you get in a position whereby you can just go through that month, you get to the end of it, oh, I've run out of money. No, it doesn't matter, the government will just give me a bit more. No fiscal discipline. Yeah? I don't want to hear it anymore. There is fiscal discipline. You have a budget. You work to it. If you don't work to it, don't work here. Cumulative EFS position, 93.5 million. That's cumulative. So I think the administration before the administration had 30 odd million, and this administration's added up to it. It ain't going down, and we're going to need more next year because we're inadequately funded because the government doesn't give us enough money to meet the statutory needs of the laws that they've passed. Starmer, sort it out. Fix it. I'm not going to sit here and have to tell the residents of Worcestershire that we've got to fill this gap by a credit card. We're going to do our very best to reduce that number, and it's going to be tough. But somebody has to turn around. They've either got to sort this act out and grow a pair, because they can't seem to sort out the welfare spending, and they can't sort out the send, and they can't sort anything else out. What's the point of them? Because the residents of Worcestershire, it's no surprise that people are disillusioned with national politics. They're failing us. All of them. It doesn't matter which party it is. They've all failed us. They're all interested in climbing the greasy pole as fast as they can, and they don't give a damn about who they damage on the way, as we've all seen over the last week. So come on, government, give us what we need and give it us now. Budget gap in 27-28. At the moment, our budget gap is £84.5 million. Don't come and ask me for money for some project. I'm not interested at the moment. We have to deal with this now. That's the scale of the problem that we've got ahead of us. Savings already approved. Right. Paul's going to get upset with me now. We spent £500,000 on a transformation report at the moment. Yeah. And it says we're going to save £8.9 million. Right. Well, the report's own words, nowhere near enough. Savings required in 27-28, 35 to 40 million pounds. To reduce EFS reliance, that's 6.5% of our net budget. So that's what everybody should be looking at. And the 26-27 savings versus the gap, and this is the frightening figure, and we aren't going to fill this, but we're going to do our very best. We've got 8.94 million. We need 84. The gap is 9 times larger than the savings that we've got in, which is in the inherited deficit. So that's got to be fixed. So I need the help of everybody in this room, every councillor, every cabinet member, to come up with ideas and suggestions, and the door is open. Just request a meeting with me or Matt or Paul, and we will pull you in. If you've got something substantial and you've got a good idea, we want to hear it. So that's basically where we are. And the Section 151 officer's warning is unambiguous. The revenue budget is unsustainable. I'll repeat it. The revenue budget is unsustainable. The general reserves are inadequate, DSG funding remains uncertain, and the status quo is not an option. So I'm going to move forward now in terms of just going through the sections of the report. Now, I'm sorry it's going to be long, but I want to set the scene out now for what we're going to do and go forward. And it's certainly going to last a bit longer than 20 minutes. I hopefully won't send you to sleep as previous cabinet members have done. And please, if you're getting bored, wave your hand and I'll try and bring it to an end. But it's important the residents of Worcestershire know where we are. So we've already had the Section 151 officer's formal warning in terms of what the situation is. Now, the scale of the inherited gap I've just taken you through in terms of what we need. You're all aware of the government intervention with the minister's letter, I presume. And as part of the budget setting, it's quite clear that the wrote to the leader of the council on the 23rd of February 26, confirming that EFS approval for 26-27 was given in principle only. It was not and is not finally confirmed. In order to unlock final approval of the Capitalisation Directive, the Council is required to submit to a full external assurance review of its financial position and governance arrangements. And on the 27th of March 26, the MCLG confirmed the SIPFA had been commissioned to lead this review, which began in April and is ongoing. Now, exceptional financial support, what does that mean? Means we spent more than we've got, and we need a credit card to fill the gap to the public. Yeah, we're running on the credit card. So a capitalisation direction is not a grant. We must repay the resulting debt from future savings. So it's a bit like you having that credit card debt. I hope it's not at 23% like most of them charge, but that's another aspect. Think of the burdens on the financial officer. When I was in this administration and we were building bridges aplenty and doing lots of highways and roads, and to be honest, that was what the council was all about. It was about providing those things for the residents of Worcestershire. It was about providing that economic benefit. You look at the road that was built across the river and the Southern Link Road, and look at the economic benefits that that's provided. Now, they're not shown in our books, but imagine when that river's flooded and all that traffic is flowing and all those people to get to work. That's why we do capital projects. But because of the situation that we face with the statutory demands on us, that's stopped now. We've become like NHS2. NHS2 is what we are. 70+% of our budget spent on children's and adult services, and great difficulty, vast increases. What's the government done to help us? Well, they've increased national insurance. Great, thank you very much. In the care sector, and my partner works in a dementia care home, she's paid the minimum wage. Their costs have gone up exponentially. That is reflected when they come to us for more money for that care. Now, government has done that. They haven't given us any more money to pay for it. Why would they? Let the residents of Worcestershire suffer. So that has to be resolved as well. You know, there's a lot of people out there working in the care sector. They're on the minimum wage, you know, and we've got to be very cautious and careful that what we do doesn't hurt those people right at the very bottom. We've got to be very clever with what we do. We've got to talk to those suppliers. We can't bankrupt them, but something's got to give. And if the government isn't going to give us any more money, we're left with very few choices. So that sets out quite a stark stall, really, but again, a call to government to fix these problems moving forward. Now, within my extraction of it, we've got things that we can do, things we might not have done well, whether it was in the last administration or combined with the previous administration. And that's what we've got to do. And one of the emphases within the transformation report on pages 30 to 35 and 212 is uncontrolled spending. 49 million outside scrutiny. A December 25 spend analysis commissioned because the previous administration, I presume that's me, had failed to grip the issue. I'm sure to get the blame. I mean, what government and councils do, and it's going to stop here. I'm not going to be blaming what happened under the administration we've just replaced or the administration previously, because the public is bored with that. 14 years of Tory rule, the last administration, let's put that behind us. I don't want to hear history. I want to see what we can do in the future. And we've got huge changes moving forward. So over 49 million of the council's total spend is not currently subject to sufficient scrutiny. So Councillor Taylor, I'm going to put that in your part. That's what you're going to look into, and that's what you're going to sort out as head of OSPB, as chair of OSPB. Take that on board, drill into those budgets and help this administration deliver what we really need and get rid of that uncontrolled spending. The report documented 2 categories of uncontrolled spend that accumulated under the previous administration. Tail spend, which is high volume, low value purchases made without formal approval process. We need to deal with that. Individually below procurement thresholds, but collectively material. Shadow spend is expenditure made entirely outside procurement or financial controls. Goods and services purchased without any approval, visibility or use of approved routes. Now I do remember in the previous administration, I can't remember whether it must have been under Councillor Geraghty, there we were looking at in-depth dive into the credit card situation and where they were. And we made vast changes in that to identify it. There was an issue that I was involved in, which is in terms of the allocation of care packages. And obviously sometimes adults do have to pay. You know, if you've got the resources, no, the government hasn't done anything about a cap on adult care. I think it was not done by the Conservatives, and it certainly hasn't been dealt with by the current Labour government either. And it should have been resolved. But you're in a position whereby you request care. We weren't actually asking for the direct debits at the point of care. So effectively, you're getting the care, you haven't been set up with a financial way of doing it, and a debt could build up that then, when it gets up to a certain level, becomes terrible for that particular family or whatever. Now, we dealt with it at the time, and I've already asked the question, really, how are we doing on the direct debits? Myself and Councillor Jenkins, we had a walk around the office to talk to some of the staff. We've done, what, quarter of it so far? If that. Enlightening. Talking to the people that are doing the hard lifting and heavy lifting here, not the management, actually going down to the floor, we came away with loads of ideas. Absolutely brilliant, and we'll be looking at those. But one of the things I was able to be reassured at, because I was speaking to the person that actually had to put in the changes that I'd actually asked for, that it was running much, much better. And you think you've got a social worker out there, an adult care worker, and they're dealing with a very difficult issue with a family and everything they've got to do. And they've got to talk about money. I mean, look, anybody that runs a business, it's the hardest thing you can do to go and ask somebody to pay you. You don't want to do it. You put it off, and they don't pay you for longer and longer and longer because it's a really difficult conversation. So we've got to make sure that those people at the front line that face decisions like that have got the support and training that is necessary to make those conversations far, far easier. So moving forward, agency spend, that's highlighted. 88% increase in 2 years. I know why. You haven't got the right skills in the right places. Yeah, we've got to have a look at that, and we've got to look at what the training process is. With the time left in this council, it's going to be very difficult to look at the future staffing of it, and it may be that we've just got to set the systems, get the processes right for the future changes with whatever people pick up under LGR. But that's a key area that we're going to be looking at. Finance. Officers' assessment of the culture left behind. Well, this is an interesting one, isn't it? On page 129 of the transformation report. Unconstrained spending behaviour. Right. Well, what's that then? Some services behaved as if funding is unconstrained and prioritising local pressures over corporate financial sustainability and value for money. Finance was simply ignored by parts of the organisation. It's in the report, black and white, we're going to deal with it. Finance bypass by decision makers. Governance and finance input are engaged late or bypassed by some, with rushed business cases, urgent offline decisions, and inconsistent use of corporate boards. Again, page 129, we're going to deal with it. No budget ownership by managers. What? No budget ownership by managers. That's going to change, Paul. Accountability for budgets and savings is uneven, with some managers owning their position and others delaying or ignoring agreed actions, expecting finance to fix variances. Page 129. Forecasting failures. Budget management and forecasting are not consistently service-led, leading finance staff to produce forecasts on behalf of managers and then be blamed when it goes wrong. I've already pulled this out in a particular area, and I'm certainly not going to name it because I got into trouble for doing that the other day. Deservedly so, I think. But that's got to be dealt with. Page 129. Corporate influence too weak. The corporate centre's influence is limited by culture and status, with professional finance advice not always given equal weight to directorate priorities. We've empowered Paul to deal with the directorates to get them on track. Do not back channel to your cabinet member to try and get some influence through the leader or myself. You will be talking to Paul. Paul will be tasked with a task and he will be dealing with it. I don't want any back channeling on that. The cabinet members will discuss particular concerns, but anything to do with finance, straight to Paul. Procurement control failures. Services bypass procurement. The procurement function, a key control mechanism to ensure public money is spent legally and effectively, was found to be systematically dysfunctional. Right? Services bypass procurement. Commercial input is engaged late by some, with services shaping requirements, engaging the market and informally choosing solutions before involving the team, limiting to influence, value and risk. Page 130. Spend committed before approval. Governance thresholds and routes are poorly understood by some, leading to incorrect processes being used, rework and requests to make it compliant after spend or commitments have already been made. Page 130. Multiple inaccurate systems. Multiple systems and spreadsheets are used for procurement and contracts, creating confusion over which source is accurate, adding administration effort and complicating audit trails. Page 130. I'm beginning to work out why we paid £500,000 for this report, to be honest. You know, it's drawing out the very things that we need to deal with. Cost increases approved without challenge. Corporate governance forums are unevenly used and attended with weak cross-directorate challenge, and some cost increases or scope changes agreed within services without returning for approval. Page 130. Contract management, non-existent. What? Contract management, non-existent. Contract ownership and management are inconsistent, with commercial involvement after award-led, reactive and problem-driven rather than planned and data-led. Planned and data-led data, IT, AI, data. If you don't have the right data, how can you make an informed decision? If that data isn't compared to other areas, other companies, and this comes back to companies, there's my business head coming on again, other councils. If this comes back to a system failure from government to provide us with integrated systems that deliver those services, then that's exactly where we lay the blame. Why are we all using different systems? Why can't we compare what another council is doing compared to us? So again, that's my call to government. Sort it out. Internal audit and governance culture. The PwC assessment of internal audit reflects a culture that allows managers to treat audit as optional. Well, I'm not sure about this, and I'm going to dig deep into this in terms of trying to draw that out, really. But the key points are audit treated as a low priority, page 133. Actions simply not implemented. Escalation had no effect. And data deliberately inaccessible. That seems a bit odd. Access to data is difficult and fragmented, with key information spread across multiple systems and owned by services. Now, I remember I was lucky enough that I got invited to, I can't remember which LGA conference it was, Paul. Can you remember when it was? Somebody didn't attend. I wasn't on the cabinet at the time. I was chairing corporate and communities. And I managed to get invited to the LGA, and I was with Paul, actually, and Simon Geraghty. And we met somebody, was it Staffordshire? From Staffordshire Council. And we were chatting away, and I was talking about this Excel spreadsheet that I'd seen. And he said, have you seen Power BI? I went, no. And I was involved in tech, at the time. I hadn't had a look at it, and we dug into it. And what Power BI is, and you've all seen it now, you've seen the dashboards, but there's not really a focus on keeping it up to date, and half of the councillors don't use it or understand it. We've got to deal with that. We've got to have a look at it. And we were on the walk round, we bumped into David, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Who does all of it. And I haven't seen him for a while since I looked after the portfolio. So I had a brief chat to him. Now, we wouldn't have had that chat if we hadn't walked around the floor. Yeah, but we had a conversation with him, and it triggered for me, I've got to go back and have a look at this. And it falls under my portfolio, so we're going to go and have a look. Now, what that allows you to do is if you've got multi-segments of data, different financial information, you can bring it together even if it's on different platforms. So I don't know whether it's on Excel or in a finance system or anything else. You can actually collate that data and use it in a combined way to have a positive effect on your budgeting and everything else. So where this says access to data is difficult and fragmented, it's a bit like when you reorganise something. I remember getting onto Bromsgrove Conservative Association and going in there back in 2014 or 15 and going through a torrid time to try and bring them into the 90s. It was 2000 or something at the particular time, but that was the ambition, was the 90s. And that's what we did. We did the data. Now I left there. And guess what? Gone back to what it was like before, probably. Yeah? And that's what we can't have here. So we're going to resurrect that. We're going to get that emphasis. I want a corporate dashboard, and I'm setting the staff the goal, on the council website that any resident can drill into and see where the spend is in real time. So that's the goal. You're going to tell me you can't do it, and I'm not interested because I don't believe in the word can't, only won't. So if you want to say won't, you can go and say won't to Paul, but we are going to deliver this. It's the right of every resident to know how we spend money. I don't want to read in the Worcester News because somebody's done an FOI request to every council in the country to ask them what they spend at Amazon. How pathetic. I'm going to be looking at the FOI requests as well. I'm not sure whether it even falls into my portfolio, leader, but I'm sure it will soon. And you can tell them to get stuffed because they cost a fortune. So government, sort it out. If anything in these FOI requests is going to take up officer time just so a newspaper can print some story that we spend money on Amazon. Why wouldn't you spend money on Amazon? I came into the office the other day and the team have been absolutely brilliant in providing me with the tools I wanted. I didn't want a 1991 576 resolution monitor. I wanted two 4K screens. And I wanted a mouse and I wanted a headset and everything. And I said to Paul, I want two 4K screens. He said, we haven't got any. I said, what? Every business out there is using 4K screens. Because I can get more on the screen, I can see the data, I can see everything. It makes me more productive. But guess what we cut first? We cut spending on the tools that make people productive. We cut spending on the tools that make people productive. So anyway, the two guys that came in to help me out, because he did get me sorted pretty damn quick, and we reorganised the office, and it was like a whirlwind, wasn't it? It was great fun. Really was great fun. Changed the office, moved it around, made it more productive so people can actually come in. Have we had the sofa yet? Have we got the sofa yet? Not yet. Right, so we're going to have a sofa in there so you can come and have a coffee with us and have a chat and talk about what's going on. But this is about productivity. Now, while I was talking to him, he said to me, I said, because being in IT, can we have quiet at the back, please? Being in IT, I turned around and I said, what's the spec of the PCs that you've got? Oh, they're i5. What? I mean, the last time I bought an i5 laptop was about, 2008 or something, I'm not sure. I said, how much memory is them? He said, 8 gigabytes. I said, so, if we gave those staff another 8 gigabyte and a bit of a faster processor, they'd be twice as productive. Yeah, and I said, how much would it cost? He said, well, they want 200 quid for the memory upgrades. I said, how much? He said, yeah, but we can do something different, he said. We could rip the memory out of the old laptops that we don't need and upgrade the new ones. I said, well, how much would that cost? He says, nothing. I went, right. Let's get an appointment for the IT guy to come and see me on Friday. So my diary's free. and I think they put the appointment request in, but for some reason it's been cancelled. I'm sure by the time I finish this meeting, it'll be back in there. Yeah, but we've got to do things like that. They're an easy step, and they're an easy way to actually do it. So if any of you are out there as employees, and you're struggling with the equipment that's in front of you in terms of productivity, and you can come to us and say, if we find a way to save something somewhere and get that kit up to a point that you can actually be far more productive, then please come and have that conversation. And it'll be completely anonymous. I'm not going to, I want that information from the staff really in terms of what they think is going to help us through this journey. So, governance, routes bypassed, decisions ignored. The leader's getting nervous now because he's thinking, is this going to turn into a speech like he's experienced previously? But I'm going to bring it fairly swiftly there. So governance bypassed under pressure, no clear accountability, financial impacts ignored in decisions, same mistakes repeated, corporate governance maturing. It's all in there. We've got the extract. We know what we're going to do, and we're going to go and address it. Technology, and then I will bring it to a close. A strategic leadership vacuum. The technology and digital function was allowed to deteriorate to a point where it's now incapable of leading transformation. I was delighted when I saw this item. I think Councillor Hardman and Councillor May will wet themselves when I actually say what it is. Leadership stripped out. Now, I don't know whether anybody remembers the Cabinet meeting when the reorganisational changes were put in for removing the head of IT and the Commercial and Change and Transformation Director at that particular time. And we gave the IT function to the HR Director, who I knew struggled with laptops. He lasted about 12 months, and we're in a void now. We have to address this. It's critical for this council moving forward in terms of that transformation programme in IT. The current senior structure of the council is a result of considerable change and churn in key personnel over the past 5 years. We have to fix it. We've got to get the people in there that have got the skill sets to be able to deliver the things we need. We need somebody that knows how to do AI, get that productivity moving, and deal with it. 400 plus uncoordinated systems, 400 plus. And this comes back to that government point again, isn't it? We've got 400 systems here. Imagine maintaining them. Imagine trying to keep them up to date. Does the company that provided them still exist? How many other councils across the country are going through the same thing? Somebody do me a quick calculation of 317 times 400. Come on, Phil, quickly. That's what is being wasted across the country through lack of centralised coordination on these systems. Why can't Keir Starmer go and ask Amazon or Google to provide us with a system that will actually work and work in the cloud? I'm waiting for it to pop up. I'm sure it's coming. Is it coming? No. I can work it out in my head anyway. What is it? 370? A lot. 120,000? 126,800. Thank you. So that means if we've got the same at every council across those 317, there's 127,000 systems being maintained. Now, if you want to find a way to give us more money, that's it. Straight away. So, to summarise, the status quo is not financially sustainable. The council must change and adapt to reduce costs at pace, as the status quo is not financially sustainable. The currently approved 8.95 million savings identified in the report are nowhere near enough for an organisation of this size. And it does not address the current financial challenges faced by the council. Now, we're going to move this transformation report as is, but obviously it's just effectively been produced as it is. If any of the councillors want a copy of my notes, I will send it out to all of them, but you've got to come and ask. Yep. If you want them, send me an email and I'll send you my breakdown of it so you don't have to go through the 550-page report. But as it stands, I'd like to... Do you want me to move the recommendations first or do the debate,
Please.
Leader?
You move it, please. I'll second.
So I'm going to take them all on block, to be perfectly honest. So we've basically got recommendations 1, A, I, and II. B, I, Roman 4, Roman 5. And I move those en bloc in terms of for this. But please, anybody that's got any savings, any ideas, wants to help, staff, councillors, please come and see me.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. You certainly do understand the issues involved in this transformation plan and many of the solutions. I may have to put a time limit on your future speeches, but as it's first one, I'll let you carry on that long. But it is very important. This is a key document that we have, and I'm formally will second those list of things. And I think it's some of the things you picked out I think are really key. The current savings target is nowhere near enough, and we know we are being watched by the government and by auditors. So we need to show that we've got a plan that we can actually transform the council and improve the efficiency and our financial sustainability. And some of the aspects of that £49 million is just not subject to sufficient scrutiny. I mean, that is just clearly not on. And other things like big increase in agency spend and things being ignored, finance ignored, part of the organisation, that kind of quote. There's lots that we need to do. But I think we've probably heard quite a lot, but I want to open it up to the Cabinet, see their points as well. Okay. Councillor Robinson is first.
Thank you, Leader. And before I start, I know we all agree that we need to do more across this council to ensure that the transformation happens. But I also want to pay thanks already to the staff across this organisation for the hard work that they put in. Without them, I don't think we'll be able to do any of these changes that are happening. So I want to place on record my thanks to all of them. But as the Cabinet for Environment and Communities, I think there's a lot of work that we can do to try and put this transformation in, but I don't have all the answers to this, so I'm looking forward to working with Councillor McSweeney on Environment and Councillor James on Communities, and whoever's put forward as the Vice Chairs on those committees to be able to come together to try and find what savings we can make, what transformation we can make, and what improvements we can make to the service. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Key is to thank the staff, because it is a very big document and there's a lot of work gone into it, but we can use the detail within that to actually help us make that transformation plan work. And next, Councillor McVeigh.
Thank you, Leader. I don't really have much to add other than to reiterate that the task ahead is huge and the urgency unprecedented. So outlining a first phase to create a new corporate services directorate, bringing together functions including finance, HR, technology and assurance, and expanding the use of digital tools and artificial intelligence is a welcome next step. I also hope that it will help improve our data sharing arrangements with some of our strategic key partners, such as the Integrated Care Board, for example. Clearly, AI is important in our transformation process, but what I don't want to lose is our connection with our residents. And I want our conversations with children, young people and families to continue. It's vital for us to understand lived experience of our residents as part of the overall process. So those two alongside each other, I think, will be a brilliant way forward. Adam, you've been brutally honest and extremely frank in presenting this paper and outlining the recommendations. It's fundamental, as we've all said, that we work together as a team to drive forward the transformation plan. And alongside this, to continue to communicate openly and honestly with residents, to do all that we can to bring people along with us at the outset. We're in this together and we'll get out of it together. I'm sure of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Lovely point at the end. Yes, it is definitely a group effort, and some of your examples, good ideas about data sharing with the ICB, that would be really, really important. So thank you for that. Councillor Walcott.
Leader, thank you. And I recommend approval of the transformation programme before Cabinet today. This is not a decision any of us will take lightly. As Cabinet member responsible for adult social care and a former chair of scrutiny for this service, I fully understand the impact that change and savings programmes can have on services, staff, providers and most importantly, the vulnerable residents who rely upon our support. However, we must be honest about the financial reality facing this authority. To ensure a council tax increase is kept below 5% in 27-28 and to continue to meet our statutory obligations, With increasing and more complex demand, which I'm very aware of in adult social care, we have to make savings and reforms now. Delaying difficult decisions is not an option available to us. We also have a responsibility to ensure that with local government reorganisation, we leave this authority in a strong and responsible position ahead of the creation of a new council in April 2028. And this means taking key financial decisions now, delivering efficiencies and ensuring long-term sustainability, not passing unresolved problems onto the successor authority. The transformation programme is necessary, and for these reasons I recommend approval to Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Alcott. And yeah, those are our key things of keeping council tax below 5%, whilst also meeting the needs of residents. We've got to make sure we can do both of those, and we cannot delay in that. Councillor Boatright Green.
Thank you, Chair. Quite simply, the status quo is not financially sustainable. We are aware of that. And so the corporate services operating model that's been put to us, it is a challenge. And I think it's going to be a difficult one to implement, but I think that we all recognise that that has to happen. Just from an educational position, I just want to say that the systematic underfunding of our schools by the government over the last probably 60 years actually, but in particular over the last 20 years, that puts financial strain on councils. Although that money sits in a silo, it means that actually you end up putting pressure on the financial ecosystem of your councils. And one of the things that I've always said is that until we are up to the mean, we have to keep pushing the government to make sure that we are getting money for our young people so that we can make sure that we take that pressure off. It is something you're going to hear me saying a lot. It is something that I am not going to let go of. And I have to say Bridget Phillipson is going to find herself in a very challenging position because it will be constant. We can't be in a position where that underfunding continues any longer because we cannot sustain ourselves, let alone sustain them ignoring our young people. So, yep, I support this, but I will say now that there are other circumstances here that are putting other pressures on these areas, and we really need to stop that from happening. So good luck, Bridget.
Thank you for that, Councillor. Yeah, I mean, you obviously know the big issues going on in schools. We've discussed it before, and yeah, that's going to add an extra pressure on us, and we know it's a real challenge, but as you say, status quo, it's definitely, that is not sustainable. Next on my list. Councillor Wells.
Chairman, thank you. First, a query. On the appendices, it says confidential. Who shouldn't be looking at this?
It's all fine. That would have been left on from when they were confidential at their outset, when SLT would have been considering, but these are not exempt appendices.
Thank you. I assume that to be the case. It's unfortunate that just still the contradiction seems to be quite prevalent. So, this is the easy bit. We're here today to agree that we implement the recommendations from the report, which will deliver, we think, a circa 9 mil. And we made 8 mil of savings last year. That was the low-hanging fruit, wasn't it? We should have gone deeper and quicker at that point. Now, some of the savings will be one-off savings. What we really need is baseline being amended to roll forward the savings rather than just postpone things for 9 months or do something, not do something once, but then intend to do it next year. So we need to create not only one-off savings, and we need to look at the capital budget too in that regard, but most importantly of all, we need to find savings that are sustainable going forward into local government review. Now, I'm getting used to my new colleagues here today, and I don't think of them as Liberal Democrats or Greens. I'm sorry. I think of you as human beings here to try to do a really difficult job. And I would say the same thing to all 57 councillors. Because, you know, at the end of the day, we might try to score our political points, but people are so bored and fed up with that. They would regard each of us, all 57, as responsible for sorting this budget mess out, whoever we are and whichever party we represent. I said this is the easy bit, Chairman. We're putting a line in the sand today to hopefully explain to everybody openly and honestly the scale of what we've got to do. And soon we're going to be meeting again and we'll be talking about reduced services, increased fees. That's the hard bit when we actually get into the detail. And I would appeal to everybody not to turn this into a political circus by saying, we're not going to do that, we're not going to do that, and that would be terrible. Because each of us, and including scrutiny, has a responsibility to come forward with sustainable savings that actually add up to something near the 30 mil we need for this year and then beyond too. So I appeal to everybody, as if it were a wartime coalition, to recognise that this is a time not for point scoring, but to being honest and open. In our own households, we have to make savings sometimes. We have to defer projects. We're not going to get the roof done this year, but we might next year. It's exactly the same. We have to make difficult decisions, and it's not going to be easy going forward.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wells. Yeah, you're completely right. I mean, the 9 million savings, that is clearly nowhere near enough. And what that does mean is, yes, we're going to be making very difficult decisions, which is probably why lots of people said, why do you want to even get involved? But we came together because we know we needed to get involved. We knew that we could, together, actually sort this out. But we do also know that we need scrutiny to really help us as well. So, which I will bring in a moment. So, first, I have no one else in the Cabinet would like to add anything, then I'll go to other people in the room. So I've got Councillor Price, please.
Thank you, Leader. This report itself is not routine business. This is a council confronting financial reality. The report itself makes it very clear the authority's position is financially unsustainable and transformational savings are now required and are essential. And let us remember this, everybody in this room, MHCLG are now watching this authority very closely. The report confirms government commissioned a CIFRA-led external assurance review covering financial sustainability, governance, leadership and transformation. This council is effectively under external scrutiny because of the seriousness of the financial position. And this transformational programme did not suddenly appear overnight. Under my Doge portfolio, as of last week, I worked closely with the officers, senior leadership and external advisors throughout this process, and I want to place on my record my thanks to them for all of their professionalism, honesty and sheer volume of work that has gone into pulling this programme together. In a short space of time, these savings have been identified at pace, and we shouldn't forget that. Because the reality is simple. Doing nothing was never an option. This programme is fundamentally about grip, governance, accountability, modernisation and protecting frontline services wherever possible. The proposals around enabling services, customer transformation, AI adoption, spend control and stronger corporate governance are all rooted in an unavoidable reality. The Council cannot continue operating as the way it has. This brings me on to 5 questions, which I'm happy to submit one by one, as per the Leader. I've got 5 questions. Would you like to submit them one by one?
Well, I think go for one first.
Yep. Okay. Does the Cabinet continue to support the principle of transforming the corporate core first in order to protect frontline services wherever possible? Okay. Second one, does the Cabinet still support the proposed Corporate Services Directorate and wider governance reforms outlined in the programme?
If I could pick that up, it's a shame you couldn't come in and see us when I kept trying to call you to make an appointment, Nick, but I'm not sure whether you wondered what I was calling you for. Yeah, I'm more than happy to open the door and come in, because obviously if you presented this report, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go through it with you as well, with Matt, so we were trying to see you to do it. I understand you had other engagements in different constituencies, but if you want to give me a shout and pop in, happy to go through the whole lot and see what advice you've got from having presented the report. Obviously it's only been in my hands for 4 or 5 days, but I've tried to do the best to get the understanding of it and move forward from my previous experience as a Cabinet role. So more than happy to look at each individual one as you could do it and have a meeting with you and Matt as well.
That's great. I appreciate that. Thank you. That's it, Leader. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that, Councillor. And I do appreciate the work you've done on this with officers over the past many months. So, yeah, really appreciate that. And definitely we need to have you involved and talk to you about your recommendations. Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. So firstly, I'd like to congratulate yourself and Councillor Kent as leader and deputy. Of course, the previous leader and deputy are now sat together at the back, but it doesn't mean we're going to stay at the back, of course. We're going to be vocal and scrutinise everything you do. And welcome to the new cabinet. Got a big job ahead of you. I'm hoping that all the parties and different persuasions that we have in politics come together and support you too. I've made a few notes and there's a few things to pick up. Of course, in my new position as chair of OSPB, firstly I'd like to thank Tom, of course, for his 5 years of service. Big shoes to fill. But I look forward to scrutinising, and we should all look forward to scrutinising, holding account your decisions that you're going to make. But more importantly, I think we have to remember why we're all here. We're all here for the residents. We're all here to fix what's necessary. And I like what I've heard so far. There's ambition. It seems to be that you're coming together, and that's important. And I think we all have reflected that this morning, that party politics sometimes should stay at the door. We all, come into this job to make a difference, and we can't make a difference if we're going to spend it pointing fingers and blame. The residents want more than that. I think they're all fed up of this. And national politics, national politicians in Westminster being involved at local level, probably the vast majority of those politicians have never stepped foot in this county, yet they're trying to make decisions and infiltrate what we should be doing. So, so with that said, welcome to all to my new colleagues as an independent. There's 4 of us now. We're hoping that group might grow. Who knows? And being independent, of course, gives us an advantage. We have no national ideology or party behind us, which helps when you're scrutinising, colleagues and members of the council. But a couple of points to make, which is important. The numbers which you mentioned, Councillor Kent, £87 million gap in 27-28. Astonishing amount of money. We're not going to save that, I agree, by paper clips at Amazon. So it'd be very interesting to see what these plans are very, very soon. And the word you use about cutting deep and cutting fast, it's absolutely necessary. I think without it, we're going to maintain where we are now, and it's not going to work. Before we know it, we're going to have Phil, in trouble, and we're going to have a 114 notice, and that's no good to anybody, including councillors and the residents. So I think the questions we'll be looking at quite early on as a council will be where the efficiency and savings are going to come from, but more importantly on that question, how soon, what they're going to be, what will the impact of these efficiencies and these savings have on the residents, on services. We need to see return on investment. We need to see hold our contractors to account. Is that being done? Is it being done soon enough? And if it isn't, get on with it. We want meetings where we can sit down, have people come up with these plans and these ideas, and then we want answers. We want actions, not just plans. We want actually actions running through it. Also, the only other thing I'd like to mention before I finish, the main focus has to be now coming together, sitting around a table. I like what you said, Councillor Kent, to Councillor Price. If your door is always open, people should knock that door. Don't leave it to here. Don't leave it for when the cameras are here and the papers are here. Knock the door, have the conversation, come up with an idea, work on it together. Because that's not what's happened in the past. Not just the last 12 months, I'm talking about previously. It's always been party politics. That needs to be forgotten now. Let's work together because we're all in this mess together. We'll sort it out together. So, look, thank you for taking on board this big job, all in the cabinet. You'll have my full support. I hope you'll have the support of all the other councillors. And I look forward to seeing you at Scrutiny Committee in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Yeah, I'm going to hand over to Councillor Kent to give a more detailed response. But I think the key in your role as scrutiny, we do want to get you kind of involved much earlier, because the trouble often what happens, particularly with budgetary issues, is by the time you get it, it's kind of too late. You've got like a month or two to look at it, and that's not out. That's not on. We need you involved early. So, and yeah, beyond party politics. it's clearly our cabinet is beyond party politics, so hopefully the whole council can be. So thank you. But Councillor Kent.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. I'm really looking forward to working with you, to be honest. It's been, look at the relationships that have been formed and the bridges that have been built between people that were previously were at each other's throats. And you know, I mean, I said right at the start, coming into this council today, no anxiety. Well, not for this meeting anyway, maybe for what comes after. But it's brilliant. I mean, honestly, the weight has been lifted off my shoulder. Natalie gave me a hug the other day, and I mean, I don't, you know. I think I think the BBC wanted to signify the ex-Conservative, well, no, can't say that, can I? Homeless member getting a hug off Natalie, and I'm sorry, Tom, but he tried to say, the Green councillor Natalie McVeigh, forget it. I don't want to hear it. It's Natalie. It's Mel. It's Dan. It's Tom. It's Josh. It's Matt. It's Dave. It's Joe. That's what it is. That's what this council is going to be like moving forward. You want to come and talk to me about the past, I'm not interested. I haven't got time. You know, keep it in the back pocket. But you've just pulled up a couple of really good points, and I want to reassure you. I've had a meeting with Matt already, and we were talking to Paul, and I'm not going to name the company. Yeah, well, Rachel's now thinking, please don't, please don't. But you've raised a really important point. Why should the residents, the staff, and everybody here take the pain on their own? So I'm saying to all of those taxi companies, the contractors out there, everybody that's had good earnings out of this council over the years, we're going to be looking at every one of those contractors, and Paul is going to be tasked with a specific goal that I'm not going to say. Now, if you come to us beforehand, we'll be really happy to see you. But I'm going to send a message to everybody on that supplier list. Please come and see me with Paul and the relevant cabinet member for that particular area, and we will have a decent chat about sharing this pain together. And one other thing we've also discussed, Councillor Taylor, is we are going to have an intensive away day in a very cheap location with lunch. Oh, and by the way, I want to make that statement here. We obviously took the lunches away. It was a political piece of, well, it was probably my fault because I went after you for having bought all the sandwiches for Zia. And we ended up with a situation, I mean, you look at some of the length of some of the council meetings that we've had recently. I mean, like, we're going into the night, aren't it? It's like standing in Parliament, really. But I don't want the council to pay for those lunches. I can't reinstate that. That would be unfair on the residents. But what I would like to see, and we've got the NFU, I think, coming in tomorrow, is there a way that we can get a celebration of what Worcestershire produces so that the people that can produce in it can come along with what they've got and feed us at lunchtime at no cost to the residents? Yeah? So let's see if we can find a way that we can promote what's great in Worcestershire. And anybody that wants to come and do it, and I've got the business portfolio again. I'm so happy. I don't think Gary is, but I am so happy. I love that portfolio. I want to help those businesses of Worcestershire grow. You know, whatever we can do, let's do it. But if you're providing food or whatever through the farming and whatever, get yourself together, get yourself in here, feed us for free, and we'll promote the living daylights out of it. Yeah, you'll get that. So that's it. Let's engage with business. And I'd call out to all of the council, look at where you can lean on local suppliers in terms of what you're doing and see if you can get a partnership. But thanks, Councillor Taylor. Looking forward to it. We're going to give you, when you're on holiday next, we'll try and pitch the day in the middle of that. But no, we're going to have a big away day, and those types of ideas, that's what we want to see at those away days. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kent. And we have Councillor Miller, please.
Yes, thank you, Leader. Well, what a change. And none of us ever expected any transformation like this within Worcestershire. And I've never known anything like this in my 30-odd years of being a councillor. But congratulations to everyone. You got a job and a half. You mentioned contracts, and you made a reference to contracts. And the contracts that we have, if the contractors actually carried out what they contracted to do, our residents would probably be a lot happier. The residents don't, all what we've spoken about today, our residents don't understand how we run as a council, and why should they? They elect us to actually take that responsibility and make it happen, to make their lives far better in their day-to-day running. So we got 57 councillors who can take responsibility for their division. And responsibility should be taken if you see a sign that isn't cleaned and it's contractual that that sign is cleaned. Why isn't it cleaned? My residents say to me, why did they come and repair that pothole and the one 2 foot away they didn't repair? Why on earth did they do that? They've got to come back another time and repair the next one. Trying to explain that to a resident, you can't explain it. But we've got the councillors there that can actually monitor and see what's going on their division. And I would say, councillors, get out and do the job you were elected to do. Look after your residents. Look after your employers at county. Look after the officers that actually make things happen. Work together as an organisation should work together and not in silos. I'm not going to go on anymore, but let's have a look at what we can do. Yes, I will say, those councillors that are we know that they're very good at their portfolios in the past. Use their experience. Use their experience to make this council work. Don't leave people on the back bench to do nothing that have that experience. Use it. Make us a successful council, not a council of yesterday. What did Churchill said? To go forward, you need to look back. No one person can make everything right. We will all make mistakes. It's putting those mistakes right.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Really good points. And I think, first about all of us in our divisions, we are all about kind of reporting things. We can do that more. We know that, we have our own member portal system, but also we know that residents, there is an easy system online on our website. If we can get more people to report things, actually that frees up officer time as well, rather than us doing all that as well. And I think, yes, I know we had some people who would have been in my cabinet who currently aren't in my cabinet, and we know they've got huge depth of knowledge as well. So we will use the knowledge that we have across the 57 councillors, rest assured. So thank you for that question. Councillor Hardman, one of those experienced councillors I was just referring to.
Just very quickly, I hate to be nitpicky about this, but I just think that people ought to be clear about the recommendations that we're making today, because while they have been moved and seconded, of course, what you are doing is authorising the head of paid service to start negotiation with the trade unions, as laid out in paragraphs 30 to 33. And then you are noting that overview and scrutiny are going to be asked to consider the whole of this report, which seems to be absolutely fine. But then you're going on, and I think this is, I suppose, a function of the Constitution, that you're going to have a decision in July to appoint, in effect, a new director of corporate services for the new directorate that you are creating. And what, in effect, PwC are doing in this report, I have to say I haven't read the report in detail, they are suggesting that what has happened is you, to a degree, have lost £8 million worth of control in the directorate that they've been able to identify. And their solution to this is to go back to a corporate or resources directorate, which will involve you with considerable costs to save the 8 million. So I sort of understand this. It's it's centralisation, having decentralised the roles and responsibilities into the directorates. But I do think when I look at the scale, it's quite easy to say that the directorates clearly have not. What they've not delivered is perfection. And I do just wonder, I'm going to have to think about this and read the report, as to whether creating a new corporate services directorate at this moment is the way to go. So I will consider this. I do think there are other options that you could have considered which might have been easier to implement, because I don't wish to be flippant about this, and I do wish you the best. But here we are in May, and you're not going to get a decision till July. And then, although we're going to work through August, and I absolutely applaud that, because it was one of the things that used to send me scats, that I used to think this council was run by the school holidays. In effect, I suspect by the time you've recruited, it's going to be October. But brighter people than me, I'm looking at Hazel here, probably are constricted by the Constitution. But my comment would be, in a nutshell, it's hardly flash to bang, as I used to say.
Thank you, Councillor Holden. As ever, very knowledgeable question. I'll just pass to Hazel first, and then Councillor Kent.
Thank you. And Councillor Hardman, I am nowhere brighter than you, but grateful for that comment. So the recommendations, just to clarify, so the one in 1A, 1 and 2, so what paragraphs 30 and to 33 of the report, they're in relation to some terms and conditions for all staff. So it's talking about contractual sick pay, standby rates, mileage, travel and subsistence rates, relocation allowance, and removal of 2-year salary protection, and removal of festive leave. So that's what the Chief Exec will be authorised to do, the new collective agreement. Paragraph B is in relation to the full meat of this report, really, which is to do with the transformation programme. So that's why we've separated out the recommendations. And in relation to setting up a new directorate, in terms of us being under no overall control, it was considered best to take that to council with setting out the steps that would be needed, which would, of course, at the senior level, be the appointments, etc. panel.
Councillor Kent.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Hardman. It is indeed a shame that we haven't got your expertise on the Cabinet. That's the first thing I'm going to say. And obviously, I take on board the comments that you've made, and I think what I'd like to do is get you to come and see me, Matt, and the Chief Executive as well, and deal in detail with the points that you're going to do and carry forward. In terms of the appointment of the Director, if we wanted to do it earlier, because it's got to be a matter for full council, I believe we'd have to call an EGM. Yeah, so I think really if you can get an appointment in the diary fairly quickly with myself and Paul, we'll take on board the suggestions you've got, because that's what we're here for. I mean, you've been here and seen it and done it. I don't know how many, the transformation that you did before my time was extensive, and we would be foolish not to take on board the experience that you've got and the knowledge that you've got. I just wish you were sat up here with us. But that's been taken away from us. You never know. It might change, and we might get you up here, and the colleagues sat next to you, because I miss you. You really should be here. But we'll definitely set up that meeting, take on board what you've got, and we'll set it up with the Chief Executive and the leader if he wishes to attend.
And thank you, Adam. Councillor May.
Thank you very much, Leader. Congratulations on your appointment, and I wish you every success, because your success will mean success for the county of Worcestershire, which is at the heart of all we do with 610,000 residents. Can I just, because much of the language has been what's been going in your eyes as the new incumbent wrong, I want to pay tribute to all those people, those officers that have worked tirelessly. COVID changed the world, and with that change came a different direction. And I'm just very fearful that many people will be watching this down the camera thinking, what's my future as an officer at Worcestershire County Council? And in particular, Hazel just spoke about Christmas and having breaks. Many people procured those additional days, which helped actually. We didn't incur additional cost. They put money back into the system. And I think as a good employer, you offer flexibility and adaptability. The world has changed, people work from home, and we recognise that. It doesn't mean that it's a negative, it means it's an opportunity for those with a specific skill set to come and to continue to work with us. I am concerned, I'm very concerned when I hear that whole plethora of proposals, because we still need, I just hasten some caution here. Where we sit geographically, we have strong location connectivity to Birmingham, to Gloucestershire, etc. We absolutely need to make sure that our workforce, who are our front-facing, hard-working individuals, are protected all in all of this. Because what I don't want, and when I was the Cabinet Member for Transformation and Commissioning, I battled to keep social workers, for example. And social workers are like hen's teeth in certain parts of this country. We need to maintain their terms and conditions, and we need to protect the people that have worked blooming hard for this county since for many years, but particularly since COVID. As I said, COVID changed the world. So yes, we need to look, but we need to be very measured. We need to put it through the scrutiny groups, and we need to be listening. We need to be in listening mode, because I've just watched the expression of some of the officers in this room, and I'm extremely concerned. You protect frontline services. You protect frontline services, particularly with unitarisation coming around the corner. You need the creme de la creme, whoever stays with us, to move forward for either a two-tier or a unitary as a Worcestershire. So I know we need to take difficult decisions, and I acknowledge that, and I'll be the first one to say yes, take those difficult decisions, but be mindful of the impact of the decisions you make and the narrative when you're sat there and you're speaking, please. Thank you so much, Chairman. Thank you for indulging me.
Thank you, Councillor. And yeah, you raised important points. We know that this transformation plan includes threat to staff, their jobs. So we realise it's very difficult, and we know from the limited time we've spoken to some of the staff, I think they are aware of the situation that we are in. So, I mean, it's important that we get the buy-in from all staff. And, I mean, this is just version 1 of our transformation plan, because obviously we've only been in post for, literally a week from last Thursday. So we will be moving on to, developing it and improving it and putting what we think can improve it. But, yeah, we want to protect those services. That is absolutely important to us as well. So thank you for that. Councillor Wells.
Chairman, we are a people serving people entity. That's what we do. We tarmac roads as well, but primarily that's what we are. And they're our greatest resource. It sounds rather trite to say that, but it is actually a fact. And members of staff will be watching and trying to understand, because their lives are dependent, their mortgage is dependent on decisions that we are about to make. So whilst you acknowledged the comments from Karen, I didn't really think we'd bottom that out. How are we going to engage with staff? So that after this morning's meeting, how, Paul, do you intend to ensure that staff are properly briefed rather than let the gossip machine do it?
Thank you for the opportunity, Chair. We did it yesterday to start with, so we knew the report had been published. I was very keen that before it appears in the papers that staff know all about what is happening. So we have a regular monthly staff briefing where we have gone through the report and told people what is happening. Now, clearly within the report, there is no specifics against individual posts at this point. We've made it very clear to staff that there will be a process by which we will do that, and we will be fully transparent at all points. I'm a great believer in The way in which we communicate and manage the process needs to be about fundamentally integrity. What you are told is what happens, and that you are not kept in the dark. We're all adults. There can be a tendency in some cultures of organisations where it's an adult-child type of relationship with staff. We don't want that. We don't have that. We are trying to be in a position where people are not foolish. They know that if we've got £60 million being spent every year more than we've got in income, at some point there are going to have to be reductions in what we do. And so to pretend that there's anything other than that would be nonsense. So I've been really clear with staff that we are available for them to come and ask any specific questions. One of the things I constantly say to people is, if you are worried about something, come and ask me, because I will tell you the truth, whether you might like it or you might not, but I will tell you, don't listen to the rumour mill. And there is a danger often, not about what is actually said. They'll probably all be up to speed on what's in the report. What they get worried about is where there's a silence. That's what actually creates the rumour mill. So we are taking active action to do that. Jo Dalton and her team are doing lots of internal communications. And I think what people really want is to be told as early as possible, very much like you're discussing about where the budget is and when can we get to those numbers earlier. People want to know, how will this affect me? What's the scale? And the other important point that I did spend some time talking to Adam and Matt about is, for the vast majority of people, what this will mean is a change to the way in which you work, not the fact whether or not you will work. Yes, there will be some areas where we have to do actual reductions in number, but we might do that through natural wastage, through retirement, through people naturally leaving and going for other jobs, and we can move things around. We will be smaller, but it doesn't necessarily mean redundancy. And so we need to be clear who is affected and who isn't, because what you don't want is the whole workforce in anxiety, when actually it's only going to affect a small amount. You know, you've already seen the numbers. There's 10% of the savings total is coming from efficiency and transformation at the moment. We hope to do in stages 2 and 3. And when we get into the services, similar amounts again. So you could say up to half of the gap is coming from that. But the remainder of it will have to come from either additional funding or from changes in what we provide. And that's fundamentally where we're going. So it is, you know, right at the top of our agenda for the whole of SLT to be very upfront, very straightforward with staff, and to deal with their queries honestly and openly, such that they know if there's an issue or not.
Yeah, just a quickie actually, Paul, because I think you brought out something. I listened to what Councillor May says. Take it on board. Come and see me. Come and sit in the office. We'll sit down with Paul as well. But from a point of view with you, Paul, can you just clarify in terms of the number of staff that we have in the organisation and what the current churn rate is?
Well, yeah, the numbers, we have about 2,200 full-time equivalent, but we have about 3 and a bit thousand actual heads of people, because lots of people are either part-time or have time-limited contracts. And that's directly employed by the council. There are many thousands of others who are employed by contractors in care and various other things. Within that, then we've got that number that we ultimately employ. And what was the second part of it?
Churn rate.
Churn rate is about, it goes between about 7 and 10%. Oh, okay. Yeah. Churn rate, for those that don't know, is, you know, people who naturally come to the end of their career and retire, or people who go and get a different job somewhere else, because there are plenty of jobs in local government at the moment, and, you know, people are attracted to other councils or other areas of work, or even into the private sector, or quite often into the NHS that we've seen. And so, you know, there is that constant churn of people coming in and going through. The difficulty with that at times can be whether it's the people that you need that you can do, and can you automatically fill it. So there are some longer term strategies that we have about succession planning, about training our own, and one of the biggest success areas of that has been in social workers, actually, Karen, in terms of bringing our own, because you're right, you cannot get them in the marketplace. But unfortunately for local government, the numbers of set areas where you can't get people is ever expanding at the moment. So we really struggle. If you look in the municipal journal, which is sort of the trade journal, very difficult to get an engineer, very difficult to get an accountant, very difficult to get a lawyer. And part of that problem is the private sector pays more. That's the reality. And in fact, as well, many of our neighbours pay more, even if you're going to go into local government. So it has to be absolutely what you're talking about. A lot of people don't come into local government just purely for money. They come in for, who do I work for? What's the employer like? Is it a nice place to work? And we've got many of those advantages in Worcestershire. It's a fantastic place to work, fantastic countryside, fantastic county, good transport links. It's not purely about money, which is why we don't have a really high turnover rate. But it is, of course, there is a level to that. So you're absolutely right. How we treat people, what we do, are we a good employer? Very, very keen. And you'll have seen that, members will all have seen that over the past few years where we've done wellness weeks and we've done additionality in terms of assisting and helping employees to make it a good place to work. The quid pro quo for me, that is, it is a good place to work, but we expect you to work hard. And we've got great staff who do that. And, you know, we are very blessed, as has been shown, and I will just put the plug in for Mark and his team, as has been shown with most recently with our good result for CQC, which is a fantastic thing. A huge amount of work gone into that. And similarly in children's, we're at the same rating. And just to balance it up for highways, we got green where very few councils did. So, you know, our services are good. What we need to sort out are the finances that underpin it. That's the reality. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And yeah, I think telling staff the truth and keeping them involved is definitely key for us. I realise my first chairing has gone on slightly longer than planned for this meeting, but I've got Councillor Robinson and Councillor Boatwright-Green.
Thank you, Leader. I just want to come and thank Councillor May for that point. As most cases in this chamber, she comes and gives a really pertinent point. As someone who's been made redundant twice in his life and had his terms and conditions changed as well, I really want to place on record myself and hopefully of the whole cabinet to all staff at Worcestershire County Council that we really appreciate all the work that they do. Sometimes I might challenge people and they might not think that sometimes, but I really do appreciate all the work that's been done. And I want to, as the Chief Executive has said, about being open and honest. The worst thing I ever knew when I was being made redundant or have my terms and conditions changed is that rumour mill and that vacuum of what's happening. So if we could be open and honest with everybody, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor. Really important point. Councillor Boatwright-Green.
I'm going to try and frame this correctly because it's used to being in opposition where it's the other way around. But just 32.A with the contractual sick pay, I believe that in the current situation, it's that you don't get paid for the first 3 days, which has always been a personal beef of mine. Yeah, I just wanted to double check this was actually a change where actually statutory now kicks in straight away. This is actually an improvement because otherwise I will have some beef with this one.
Yeah, the statutory changes to the overall employment across the UK mean that's got to be paid from day one. So that is a benefit that hasn't been at our, in terms of a decision we've made, but I presume it will be an additional cost to us. Yeah, so that's a statutory change from the government, but it will increase the costs on this council. And it's not dissimilar to the situation with national insurance. So, and it's going to have to be very carefully monitored, I should imagine, in terms of it. Yeah, I'm looking at the Chief Executive now. He's thinking the same as me, but no. Thank you, Councillor Boatwright. Spot on.
Right, thank you, Officer. I think we've taken quite a lot of time on this, so I'd like to just move to the vote to agree to those recommendations. So, all in favour? Okay, thank you. Right. On to the final item on agenda, item 6, which, according to Councillor Robinson, is clearly the most important item on the agenda, isn't it, Josh? So, over to you, Councillor.
Thank you, Leader. And as some in Bromsgrove might know, I was brought up in a council estate to a single parent, so feels quite pertinent to me. But since October 2021, upper tier councils have received funding to support vulnerable residents with household costs. This includes for food, energy and wider essentials. Funding through the Department of Work and Pensions Household Support Fund, this programme ended in March 2026 and is being replaced by a 3-year Crisis and Resilient Fund. The Household Support Fund focused on direct payments to households to support directly with costs. The programme initially provided £7.9 million annually. In the previous financial year 25-26, the allocation reduced to £6.8 million. We'll be working with all stakeholders to ensure that we provide the best support for our residents. Due to the changed criteria of the new fund, work is being undertaken with key partners to develop a joined-up approach across key partners to support families. This includes task and finish group with school representatives to develop an approach for supporting families in crisis and prevention activities. Meeting with family hubs to develop a joined-up approach for supporting families in crisis and preventative activities. Closer working relationships with holidays, activities and food programme providers to ensure joined-up approach for supporting families in crisis and preventative activities. Proposals to fund 6 district-wide family-focused citizens advice workers to work alongside family hubs and schools in supporting families. A crisis does not work on a 9-to-5 schedule. A key change to our service will be providing an out-of-hours service so that residents can access financial support when it is needed. We will be working around the clock to ensure this service is up and running. Whilst the Crisis and Resilience Fund is a 3-year scheme, this paper relates to Year 1 activity only. As this is a completely new scheme, demand for the crisis scheme is unknown and therefore plans for Year 2 will be amended accordingly based on trends and, more importantly, the needs of residents. We are committed to ensure that vulnerable residents who are most in need receive the support they need. I therefore propose this report to Cabinet.
Thank you for that, Councillor Robinson. I believe Councillor McVeigh was second.
That's right, thank you, Chair. I'm very happy to second the recommendations in this paper. I've seen firsthand how households have benefited from initiatives such as household support funding, details of which are outlined in the report. So as cost of living pressures continue, I'm relieved to see that funding will also continue and be available to those who need it, either to prevent a crisis or to help them to become financially stable. Councillor Wells touched on this in the previous item. As we know full well, having discussed our own corporate challenges at length this morning, financial stability and feeling that we're in control of our finances is extremely important to us as individuals in our personal lives and collectively here as elected members. I'm hugely supportive of an asset-based approach. I've seen it work in the Malvern Hills, and having chaired Health and Wellbeing Board a couple of days ago, I'm seeing it working in communities across Worcestershire. So obviously, I like the proposed collaboration between us as a county council, our district councils and our fantastic voluntary sector. There are some excellent people within excellent organisations who are close to our residents. Let's make good use of their skills and willingness to collaborate and achieve some positive outcomes for our residents. As I've said, we have some fantastic examples of partnership working and some impressive community assets, be those buildings, people or open spaces. And we know that the collaborative model works effectively across vital services, including housing and health, to reach those who need support. Early intervention and prevention are key and are proved to have a lifelong impact. As ever, the way that we communicate this offer to our residents will be vital to ensure that everyone who needs support knows how to get it. This should also take into consideration our geography as a largely rural county and avoid the scenario of postcode lotteries. People throughout the county need help to keep their heads above water, so let's continue to help them swim through these choppy waters. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I think it's really important that the idea that actually being financially sustainable yourself is a key element of health and well-being. If you're struggling financially, often then mental illness and other problems happen. So, this is really important across all of our residents, and collaboration is really important as well. So I open this up to Councillor Boatwright Green.
Thank you, Chair, and apologies to Josh because I have notes on a few of these things, but I'll take those offline. I think I just need to clear a second interest, I've just realised, because I'm the Council's trustee for Pershore Riverside Centre, which does offer HAF programme. So I just want to make sure that's on the record, just so it's there. The reason I mention it actually is that one of the biggest issues we're often facing when these programmes are actually put into place is actually making sure that people know they're there. And one of the big problems we have is that we have a lot of families who are working and still in poverty. And trying to have the time trying to sort these things out for the holiday season does make things incredibly challenging for families. And I think giving them that easy access so they know exactly where to go and they can get that help, I think is a really big thing we do need to make sure is there. The second point I just want to make, and I have personal experience of having to deal with this, is that financial support outside of office hours is really important. We've had several instances where I have not really known where to go as a councillor, where I know there's a really significant issue, where people have been left in really difficult circumstances. And I also know that charities and sometimes people have actually handed over cash because they know that that's been the only way to do it. Having that out of office kind of contingency will be really important, and especially as councillors it means we know that we've got that backup when someone does call us up at 9 o'clock at night because something quite scary has happened and we do need to help them fix it. So I'm really happy to support this, although there's a little bit less money, I prefer there was a bit more, but I think this is something that we should be driving forward to make sure that everyone knows we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, really important. I mean, these things are no good if no one is aware that they exist, so that's really important. And yes, if there was an emergency, someone came to me as a councillor, I'd have to admit I wouldn't be very sure where I would need to signpost people. So yeah, that is definitely key. Councillor Alcott.
Chair, thank you, and I will keep this brief. I'm disappointed that the previous reform administration not worked at pace to have this delivery already proposed and underway. That being said, this funding will provide both immediate support for residents facing financial hardship and longer-term help to build resilience and independence. Replacing the Household Support Fund with a broader, more preventive approach will only be a good thing. So it's, obviously we know it's not focused on crisis response, as well as that, and also on helping people avoid reaching crisis point in the future. As Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care, I appreciate that financial insecurity, fuel poverty, housing pressures and debt will have a negative effect on people's health, well-being and independence. Early intervention and practical support are essential if we are to reduce escalating need and help residents live safely and independently within their communities. The proposal before Cabinet will allow this council to work alongside district councils, voluntary organisations and community partners to deliver targeted support. And importantly, this is about dignity as well as support. It's about ensuring residents are not left without food, heating, essential household items or access to advice when they need it most. I therefore recommend that Cabinet approve this proposal, avoiding further delay for our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, the two key points I think from that is prevention and early intervention. Those are definitely key. So thank you for that. No one else in the Cabinet, so, Councillor.
May I just pick up on the point that Mel just really eloquently made in that children and young people that are living in deep poverty and unfortunately destitution is a word that's made its way back into our dictionaries. That counts as an adverse childhood experience, and that has a serious impact on that child and young person's life going forward through life that is very hard to overcome. So just to reiterate the point that, the longer people experience living in poverty for, the deeper that impact is throughout their life. And so as you've just said, and as Mel said, early intervention and prevention, absolutely key. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Councillor. I mean, I know that those ACE, isn't it, adverse childhood experiences, and from visiting like St Paul's Hostel several times in Worcester, we know that all of them there pretty much have like 7 or 8 various adverse childhood experiences, and it just makes a massive difference, or it certainly can do. There is potential there that it can have really negative influences. So, that's through the Cabinet. Would you like to say something, Councillor Kent?
Yeah, just very briefly. I think, and Councillor May will probably enjoy this really in terms of it. If she had been here, if she had been here, early prevention. Yeah, we've got to try and work out some very clever ways to reduce the budgets that we've got, but also to ensure that frontline care is protected. But let's try and help people before they need to come in. Yeah, that's absolutely critical. I know, Lisa, I think, and this will be picked up with the public health element of the portfolio with the relevant cabinet member, but we're looking at further ways moving forward to support families in a way that prevents the need for social care. And I think that's the key thing with this council, really. We've got to look at that prevention model in terms of it, and I think Councillor Mayer's been beating that into my ear. I haven't forgotten it. It's still there. And I think one of the other things that I think Lisa's told me right in the middle of the meeting, modern technology, make sure I'm on the case, get the point across. New public health investment to support foster carers. Thanks, Lisa. So I ran the London Marathon to do exactly that, to raise awareness for the absolute need for more foster carers. And I know Councillor Bowen was passionate about it. We didn't always agree and get on in council. We've had our moments. But the point is, I want to send the message to Councillor Bowen that the work he's done on foster care and everything else as well, that picked up from the work I did previously, we don't want to claim individual credit for Councillor Bowen or me. 57 of you have got to go out there and get those foster carers. We'll support the investment to try and drive them, but if we get the foster carers, what's the average cost of a child in residential care, Adam? £7,250 a week. £7,250 a week. Now, if you're a family out there, you're coming up to that university period, you're going to have that bedroom free, and it means you're going to have to talk to your husband on your own and you want a relief, why not become a foster carer? Come and talk to us. We're trying to make it easier for you to get in. But seriously, this is something, you know, I've got a friend that suddenly reappeared after a bit of time away, and his wife is absolutely terrified that their aging son, I think he's nearly 40, will leave home. No, he's not that old. But the point is, it creates a gap, and it does give you an opportunity, and I know I'm being humorous about it, but the point is, if you've got children going off to university, come on. You've got company, you've got the space, you've got the bedroom, you can turf them out, and if you've got somebody in that bedroom, hopefully they won't come back. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor. I think it's everyone for the Would anyone else like to make a point outside of the Cabinet? If not, well, 12 o'clock, let's move to the vote. All those in favour? Okay, that's agreed. And I believe that's the end of my first chair of the Cabinet. And thank you, everyone. Thank you.